So, Michael, thanks for joining us today. I mean, everyone calls you Thommo, so I won't use Michael again. That's probably the name your mother uses when you're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
But yeah, thanks for joining on this a bit of an exploration, I suppose, on your experiences as an official, and how that may be a benefit for other people to sort of hear your story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting back to the early days and how you first got started in the sport of triathlon. You were initially an athlete, is that correct?
Yep. So my background's actually a 1,500 metres pool swimmer.
Okay.
And at the time, there was a fair amount of very good 1,500 metre pool swimmers. And I actually had the 8th fastest time in the world, but unfortunately the 7th fastest times in front of me were all Australian.
Yeah.
And obviously there's only 2 that go to the major games. So I actually went down to, a bit like most people back in we're talking 25, 30 years ago.
Yep.
Triathlon was a really young sport back then. Went down to the local triathlon, jumped in and had a go and actually won it by 6 minutes. So I thought, this is an easy sport. I should give this a go. And that's actually how I got into triathlon, certainly from an athletic background. And then obviously, like I said, back then, triathlon was new. It was new. It wasn't as it is now. It was, you could be a swimmer and still win races, as opposed to now you need to be a triathlon or a triathlon to actually win a triathlon. So you could be really good at one discipline and still limp across the line in first place. So obviously the sport changed and the reason why I got out, but yeah.
But that was in that early days of it being sort of draft illegal.
Yeah, so
across the elite level.
Yeah, 100%. So my last actual race was Mooloolaba World Cup, and they actually brought in obviously drafting, and my running leg is miserable, and there was no chance that I was going to get away from these guys on the bike. So I think I got off the bike in 3rd. I think I ended up coming 75th across the line. So I kind of looked at myself after that race and went, I should probably get a real job now.
Yeah. So that was, obviously you're at a fairly high level at the time there. Did you have a break from the sport or did you move straight to officiating, or how did you sort of make that, that bridge into being an official? Yeah,
no, look, I basically, after Mooloolaba, I actually didn't want anything to do with triathlon. I basically moved to Sydney from Brisbane. And spent 7 years, going to university, getting into the corporate world, doing masters of business, all that kind of stuff. So I actually didn't want anything to do with triathlon. Didn't want to do anything swimming, nothing with riding, and certainly nothing with running.
Yeah.
And then I actually lived. I lived in the Mecca that's the Sutherland Shire or Cronulla in Sydney, and this was like I said again, this was the time when Macca and McKinley Jones and Greg Welsh and all those guys were destroying the world.
Well, you're at the epicenter really of the triathlon world.
Yeah, well,
just by accident, of course.
Yeah, it was actually by accident. Yeah, correct. So I used to obviously then go down to the beach and do all that kind of stuff, and there was the triathlon that was down at Kurnell, the little sprint Kurnell triathlon, and so I basically just went down there and got back into it. I have no idea where I came. I think I was at the back of the pack, but I actually refound my love of triathlon. And basically thought, you know what, I'm that competitive that I'm not going to be able to get back to the level I want to be. I really enjoyed obviously the concept of events and sports management, and growing up in a family of, obviously high level sports management people. I went, well, so how do I become? The concept was, how do I become an amazing event manager?
Okay.
And how do I become an event manager is to do every single particular role within triathlon. And that's actually how I actually sent an email to Triathlon New South Wales to become a technical official.
Yeah.
It wasn't to become a technical official. It was to understand the whole concept of putting on an event.
Okay. But obviously those early days, you were just pretty much a technical official when you first started off?
Yeah, 100%. Yep. So it actually took, I think it took 2 years before I actually made it to a technical official course, from the first email to Triathlon New South Wales. Actually, every time they had a course, which I think was twice a year, I was actually either overseas or sitting an exam for university. So, basically took 2 whole years before I actually turned up and did the course. Then from there, I kind of went in there as an unknown, learned everything, told nobody who I was. Yeah. I think within 3 months, obviously the CEO at the time of Triathlon New South Wales found out who I was. and then basically started putting me into obviously senior roles at races, but more brought me also onto the technical committee in New South Wales to give not so much to give my technical opinion, because at that time I had none. It was more of an athlete's perspective, because one of the interesting things that I've certainly found that still happens today is there's not a great deal of elite athletes that become technical officials. If we look at our ranks now, there'd be maybe one or two that have raced as an elite athlete or at the pointy end of any particular race that now is a technical official. So basically that the switch was flicked, and I became a committee member, and then I really enjoyed it, and enjoyed, I guess, the whole concept of the behind the scenes stuff as well. So it was enjoyable.
Having been obviously being at the elite level, what value do you think that added to you being a technical official? That experience.
Well, and I guess this is probably even used during everyday life, but it was more as an elite athlete, you're training constantly to be the best. Whether that is, whether you're the best swimmer or runner or cyclist, it's to be the best on the day at any particular competition. And I guess that you use that same mentality as a technical official or an event person, is you want to be the best person or deliver the best experience or be the best educated within, say, technical rules or how to put on an event on any particular day. So it's always that drive for perfection. I don't think you'll ever get there, and that's the exciting thing about it. But it's wanting to be the best on the day. And the interesting thing, certainly with triathlon, and it's probably a little changed a little bit now, but triathlon isn't an individual event. So in terms of that, you're always about yourself. Whereas with a technical official or a technical team, you've got a whole bunch of people. It could be a team of 5, or it could be a team of 30. But all of those links need to be working together to ensure that you and them are performing, at the highest level, to ensure that, the athletes experience, the spectators experience, the event people experience, and also the technical officials experience is really, really nice. Because if you have a bad experience, you're not going to come back.
Yeah. Was there people early on in the program that sort of encouraged you and sort of gave you those positive experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. So obviously, Phil Daly at the time was the CEO of Triathlon New South Wales, and he was the one that I certainly got really close to in terms of, if Phil was doing an event, and obviously, like I said, my drive was to be the best. I would make sure that I was at that event to just watch and see what Phil was doing. And how he would do it. And like I said, it was very unique because obviously Phil was also an event manager at the time, and they were running the Cornell race through Triathlon New South Wales. But he's also, the TD or the race referee or the senior person within the TO team. So Phil certainly became my unofficial mentor, but then my official mentor later down as the program evolved. But yeah, it was basically just feeding off Phil. It was, how would you do this? Or, I saw Phil do that little thing there and made the whole day, so much better. Or how did he communicate with all the athletes, all the volunteers and all that kind of stuff? So it was basically feeding off what he did and just looking, not even asking 1,000 questions, just looking at how he did it. And then using those little skills that I would pick up and use that as well. And then obviously then when you do get you get elevated to your first race referee role, and it's exciting, but it's also extremely nervous. Like you're the guy that's going to be making those tough calls.
Yeah, was it a little bit nerve-wracking that first time for you?
Yeah, 100%. Yep, 100%. And the most nervous bit was actually getting up on the truck, which they had as the stage at the Cornell Triathlon, and reading through the race briefing for all the athletes, and telling them this is what you need to do, and if you don't do it, you may be talking to me at the end of the race, and all that kind of stuff. But that being the first one, once you get through that, it's it's like, okay, well, I've got through that, I can do that now. And that from my perspective, that was the hardest bit. It's certainly not now. I certainly enjoy public speaking, but it's the flip side. It was, okay, so I've now completed that task, which was the hardest. I can now do that at any particular race, and take those early are the ones that are going to ground you for the future.
So obviously, those early experiences, and obviously within New South Wales, helped certainly shape, you as an official. When did you sort of step out, sort of like the I suppose the ecosystem of New South Wales, and experience something sort of different to that?
Yeah, it's obviously I was in probably New South Wales, I think, for about 3 years, and then I moved to Queensland. I moved to the Gold Coast, and ironically, again, it was the trend was Michael's moving to the Gold Coast. Let's put him on the technical committee for Queensland, and I then became chairman of the technical committee for Queensland, and obviously Queensland had a lot more. Bigger races, you think in World Cups, you think at that time they had, obviously the ITU race on the Gold Coast and all those kind of things. So it was, it was more of an experience to get to those larger events and be involved in larger teams as well and having specific roles at each particular event. It's a different, it's a different world in terms of an ITU race where you have 40 plus technical officials on it, and a local race where you have 5. The same roles and the same functions really are played, but to different levels and to different priorities too. Certainly, I think so. And then obviously the flip side is, with now doing Super League and the change in Super League, it's totally different. It's throw the rule book out, throw the event manual out, and create a concept that is different to anything anybody has ever seen. And that's certainly from an event manager point of view, but also from a race official point of view as well. It's new. Like, how do we do this? What do you mean we're giving them short shoots? What do you mean we're eliminating them after 90 seconds? And that's totally different.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of, obviously the Super League concept, we think back to the old days of those, the old Grand Prix series. And it's it's an evolution of that, but certainly with its own unique twist, certainly on that theme for those that remember it. With you, obviously, how you came to Super League was probably a little bit by accident. And you just share that experience about your first experience of Super League.
Yeah, and Super League was an amazing one, but obviously the first Super League was Hamilton Island, so it was it was in Australia in a sense, or let's say Queensland, for example. And it was we need a couple of officials, and from my understanding, whether it's true or not, it was we need a race official who's going to look good in the camera and who's not afraid to actually say what he wants to say. So it was whether that's good or not, I certainly got that gig. Which was, like I said, it was exciting. Hey, I get to go to Hamilton Island for 4 days and live it up. But if I knew what I had to do over those 4 days and how little sleep I actually had and how many variables and changes and different things that actually occurred on that particular race weekend, I probably still would have gone, but I might have been a little bit different excitement.
Yeah, we often as officials get placed into situations and things come up that we're not necessarily expecting. What sort of challenges did you sort of have to meet that first weekend?
Well, look, the main challenge with Super League was that the rules were totally different. It was nothing to do with an original race. And the interesting thing that I certainly found is in races gone past, you usually have a committee of people that if something's going to go wrong or if something's going to happen on a particular race, then you need to get a committee together. You need to discuss it. You need to figure out a solution and come up with, the action that's going to occur. Now, with Super League on Hamilton Island, certainly one of the things that jumps out is that we had a massive storm on Sunday morning before the race, to the point where the actual hill that the guys were going to ride up with was actually flooded. So we actually couldn't ride up that hill. And we had about 30 minutes before we were going to start the race. And this was live TV. So, there's 1,000 stakeholders involved, and everyone wants the show to go on and it has to happen. And the interesting thing was we actually asked the athletes, and it was an all-inclusive environment. And we actually said, look, here's the pictures, here's the video, let's go have a look at it. Do you want to race? And every single athlete, to their credit, actually came back and said, you know what, this is what we're here for. We want to race. If we have to ride up that hill in puddles, then we ride up that hill in puddles. But yeah, let's do it. We're excited to do it. So that was an interesting one. That was certainly something on the fly. Like I said, it's not we've got 4 hours to make a decision. It's we're going on live in TV in 10 minutes. Let's do it.
Yeah. So certainly, yeah. I mean, would you say your experience there it was very much a cooperative effort, whereas in the past it's often a cooperative effort between the technical officials and the race director, whereas on this occasion it was a little bit different. It was cooperation of pretty much everyone involved in it.
Yeah, and certainly one of the and to its credit, one of the things that Super League certainly has embraced is its ability to include all stakeholders, and that includes the athletes and the coaches in the final decisions. And that's even to, like I said, that was certainly Hamilton Island. That was our first one, and obviously we've evolved the Super League concept since then. But yeah, we have, we were in Mallorca, and we actually got all the athletes together. We actually spoke about, the formats and the races and what ones did they like, what ones didn't they like, what rules did they like, what ones didn't they like. It was a blank piece of paper. You guys tell us what you want to do, and what did you think was safe and was unsafe, and we'll change it. The good thing about Super League is, and I'm going to keep coming back to it, is there's only one or two people that will make a decision. So if someone says we need to change the rules, then I change the rules. And then I send it out, as opposed to it's a 3 or 4 week process. Yep. So our ability to make a decision on the ground real quick is awesome.
Yep. Has it ever tripped up on you that, because you have that ability to make rules, you haven't necessarily got ahead of the curve enough on things?
It hasn't yet, but we have made a
couple of near misses.
Well, we've had not so much near misses, but Jersey last year, where we actually had to cancel the bike leg because we had huge storms come through that actually destroyed the whole race site. And we actually made that decision to cancel the race. Just the bike leg on that race. In the locker room 10 minutes before the boys were about to walk out and actually rack their bikes.
Yep.
So that actually opened up a lot more questions from the athletes, certainly, and I guess from a spectator point of view as well, was, well, okay, we haven't got a bike leg, but in Super League we do a run, a swim, a bike, a run, a swim, a bike. The bike's gone. What do? Do we just keep running? Do we go back-to-back runs? And that's where the famous running without shoes came, and that's where the famous Johnny Brownlee being eliminated from a Super League race for the first time because he put his shoes on.
Okay.
So it was, like I said, and it was really interesting being in the locker room telling the athletes this as they're all lining up with their bikes. And I've never seen so many expensive bikes being thrown against the wall real quick. And then they all looked at each other and went, "Oh wow, what do we do now? Can we just run in bare feet? Can we just, do we have to put our shoes on? Do we have to do this?" And my exact response was, "Well, I haven't written in the rules that you have to run with shoes on, so that's all I'm saying." And that's how that famous Jersey race with one of the Brownlee boys came about.
Yep. So obviously, I mean, it does throw up challenges in terms of fairness, but it sounds like you certainly get the athletes involved, so there's no questions in terms of the playing field is level because the fairness is approached.
Yeah, 100%. And the athletes are the key in the whole process. Like, obviously, every single year I'll write up rules and I'll write up some changes to rules and things that we want to do for, obviously 2020 rules were written at the start of the year, and at the end of this year we'll revisit them and do 2021 rules. But they're actually sent to the athletes before I make them official. Yeah. And it's like, okay, guys, this is what I'm thinking of because I want it to be exciting, but what do you guys think? And usually, like I said, in most cases they come back and go, "Oh, this is going to be awesome." Or, "Holy dooly, all right, I have to change my training now." But no, it's a good, like I said, it's a good concept that they're invested in it because it's their series and it's all about the athlete.
Yeah. I mean, we always do the sport for the athletes, but this is just a bit of a certainly twist on the theme in terms of that. And being a smaller organisation, you can be that nimble to sort of, make those changes as you need to on the fly.
Correct.
Yeah, but also, I mean, there is prize money involved, and it's been, the athletes with prize money involved, suddenly, it becomes a different beast again. That some athletes may not be happy with some of the changes that are made because it disadvantages them and their style of racing.
Yeah, look, and 100%, and it's the concept certainly behind Super League is over any particular weekend, it favours no particular strong athlete. So whichever way we change the event format, if you're a good swimmer, then you're going to have an awesome race on Saturday, and if you're a good swimmer, then you may not have as good a race on Sunday. So it's all about changing the formats to ensure that nobody's disadvantaged. And you're certainly talking about prize money and some of the weird things some of the athletes do. Like in Malta, one of the athletes who was about to be eliminated and he had 3 seconds to go decided to jump into the water and swim with his shoes on. It certainly improved his social media following, and it gave him a little bit more airtime because I think he ended up coming about ninth. But he actually got a little bit more money because he swam an extra leg. So it's all those kind of things. It's the out of the box things. It's it's but the flip side to that, certainly from a technical point of view, is you're dealing with different federations. Certainly, obviously Hamilton Island was our first one, and it was good because we had an Aussie team of officials there.
Yep.
Our second race was in Jersey. Now, Jersey doesn't have any ITU races and certainly doesn't have any ITU qualified officials. And we're coming over there with our new Super League rules, and I'm talking to the local officials telling them how the Super League rules are, and they're kind of looking at me going, this makes no sense to me whatsoever. Yep. What do you mean? Am I on the mount or dismount line? Am I walking through transition? Am I at the aid station? All these kind of things is totally foreign. So it's about ensuring that the education process for these people, and like I said, it's Jersey, it's like Jersey, Malta. They have no ITU races. Like we're racing in destinations that have no official or no triathlons that need ITU.
Of note anyway, which have that sort of officials you can draw upon.
Yeah, 100%. So, but the good thing in that is now all these destinations we go to, we actually put an ITU triathlon training course on for the officials. So we are hand in hand with the ITU, which is awesome. So it gives them obviously an insight into obviously the ITU rules, but then we've got now the Super League rules, and they get to see some exciting races, but understand how the evolution of triathlon or multi-sport, as I might call it, because it's sometimes it might be different.
Yeah, no, it's certainly, and it's fascinating to hear behind the scenes about how it has certainly evolved over that time. I mean, going back into your experience, and you've obviously said early on, it's about you getting the understanding of event management and how that sort of works. You've obviously, you've qualified as an ITU, level two official. You've been at ITU events, but when the Commonwealth Games came up, you chose to, I suppose, jump the fence, so to speak. And go to the event management side. What was your sort of, we've got a bit of an idea about why, but for those people watching, what was the reasoning for jumping the fence, so to speak?
Yeah, and it was actually really, really interesting because the offers from both, from certainly being selected as a technical official for the Commonwealth Games and the Commonwealth Games organisation offering me a role as the technical operations manager, actually came 2 days apart. So on Thursday I got offered the job to work for the Commonwealth Games, and then on Friday I got the letter saying you've been selected as a technical official. Look, to tell you the truth, I was actually be working with my technical family in a sense on the field of play. All you guys were there, like the guys that I would have been there with as a technical official. I was working with, but I certainly couldn't. I guess. The drive and the passion certainly for me for triathlon now was event management and being a race director. And I certainly understood the role of a technical official, but I certainly wanted to understand the complexities of putting on a triathlon in the extent of a Commonwealth Games or an Olympic Games. And I can certainly tell you now, it's worlds apart. Any other triathlon organisation or any event that I've certainly put on. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So it was really just broadening my horizons and I guess being or understanding how a major event affects everybody who's involved in it. I couldn't knock that back. It was just too good an offer.
Yeah. Obviously, you've had experience on both sides of the fence. And I suppose it's interesting, we're sort of targeting this towards officials. So how's your event management experience made you a better official, do you think?
Yeah, and it's interesting. One person said to me when I was actually working at 70.3 Sunshine Coast, I actually said, you know what? Every official should actually come and work an event as an event manager or as an event volunteer. because it does a couple of things. One, it increases your network and understanding as to why an event company or an event person or an event volunteer or the race director does something in one particular way. Because as a technical official, we'll look at it and go, we need to move that cone. We need to ensure that this course is safe. We need to ensure that we've got enough cups, or the water's okay, or the finish line is correctly. And then the flip side is the event manager person who goes, well, okay, the reason why I've done it this way is because the emergency services people need that cone to be there, or the police have said this is where your road closures stop. Or so it's actually it's opened up so much. So I now look at, if I go in there as a technical official and I look at a race, and we sit down and we talk about why are they doing it this way, or we need to go and talk to the event people why they're doing it that way. I have the ability to process and say, well, the reason why they're actually doing it is this. And it actually sometimes saves a lot of time and a lot of hassle trying to find the right person, because we all know on an event weekend, it's not a 9-to-5 job. You're really working a lot of hours and doing a lot of different tasks. And even if you need to find that one particular person who might be at the other end of the course, and the field of play in some of these races is 90 kilometres long, so
Yeah.
you're not going to see that person real quick. It's good to go, well, you know what, there's a reason why they're doing it that way, so let's understand why. So there's actually no need to actually ask that question. So I think it's just understanding, because there are so many layers to an event. And like I said, technical official or the technical team, apart from the senior technical team, really only turn up a couple of days or a day or on the race of the morning. So I actually have no idea what's happened in the weeks, months, years leading up to that race, and what the technical delegate or the race referee or the chief race official have actually done, and the reason why they've done it. And if you've got 40-odd different personalities, for example, for a World Cup or an ITU World Championship race, everybody has their own personalities and their own ideas on how things are done. And that's the unique thing about technical officials, is that we are also different in the way that we approach things.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just sitting back and understanding why things are done the way they are.
Okay, so what would be your advice for a new official coming into the sport? They've been around a couple of years and they're looking to sort of, I suppose, increase their experience, apart from perhaps going to work for an event manager. What are sort of things they can do in an event when they go along?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, one of the key things is, or straight up is put your hand up to see if you can be an assistant. Be an assistant CRO or an assistant race referee or an assistant TD, and understand some of those key things. Because certainly when I started out as a technical official, I thought it was easy. Because, hey, I turn up on Sunday morning, I get my vest, I have a debrief or a briefing before we start. I wander down to my position, the race happens, I wave to a few people, I wander back, I have a debrief, I get a free sausage and a can of Coke, and I go home. And I'm like, oh, this is easy. But not knowing the amount of work that actually goes on behind the scenes with a senior tech team. So that would certainly be my one thing. If you want to understand the whole concept and how to become a better technical official, is put your hand up. Put your hand up and follow people around. Just sit there and watch what they do. Ask questions. Like I said, fire away with 1,000 questions, even after the event, because on an event day, so many things are happening. Yeah. We need to really understand that a triathlon is 3 events. Like we're swimming, we're cycling, and we're running. It's not a basketball game. It's a unique event where we have so many variables that happen on any particular field of play that you actually don't have time sometimes to write down information or digest why things happen there. So ask the questions even after the event. But yeah, like I said, put your hand up. Get into those roles. The more you get into those roles, it does a couple of things. One, it builds confidence. So you then understand the reason why decisions are made. 2, it gets you in front of the people that are actually going to elevate you to be a race referee or a CRO or a technical delegate. But you know what? That may actually not be your ultimate goal, but that's fine. Still put your hand up to be an assistant, because once you understand the whole flow of a race or an event management or the technical side of it, it makes you going to a race a lot more easier, but B, certainly for myself, a lot calmer. Because most of the things that are going to go wrong, because you've either experienced it, asked the question about it, seen it, or processed it in your head. And that's the key thing with a triathlon, is we have very little time to react because it happens there and then. So sometimes you need to make that decision on the fly. Like I said, we can't blow a whistle and go, oh, hang on, stop the game. Hang on, cyclist, stop. I just got to go check this ruling. We don't have that ability. We don't have the ability, like I said, basketball or tennis. Let me just call the referee over here. The races are still going on, so there's always something happen. And we've got, could be 100, could be 3,000 athletes. Noosa, could be 15,000 athletes on course. That's a lot of people. That's and like I said, field of play, Noosa, field of play is 40 kilometres. So, it's a wide variety, and you've got 20 plus technical officials out there. So you are really thinking on your feet non-stop. Yeah. So that would certainly be my advice. If is like I said, put your hand up. Follow. Yeah.
I mean, some of that stuff you say can be quite daunting to a new official as well, because they go, "Oh my God, I've got to think on my feet." No, this is like, I think we've got to sometimes be aware you can slow that down a bit.
100%.
You and I have had the experience and understand we can probably process things a little bit quicker, but the new official was like, realise you have got some time involved, and you 100%. certainly in your early days, you had some people you could certainly lean on for that support in the early days.
Oh, and yeah, 100%. I used to, like I said, I used to always talk to Phil Daly. I reckon I would speak to him once a week, just asking questions and just trying to understand it. But then as you go up, into some of the bigger events, and as you get more and more experience, there would be other people. I would talk to, for example, Mike Allen. Not so much about, not so much about triathlon, but the psychic behind a technical official and how they need to react on the field of play. Because that's also another key. It's understanding the rules of a triathlon, but then how do you react to a triathlete who's abusive or who is upset, or you've just given them a penalty and they don't understand it. And like I said, triathlon is such a unique event because we have 60% of people who might be doing it for the first time that have no idea what the rules are. They wouldn't have a clue. You're pulling out a card, giving them a penalty, and they look at you and go, "Oh, yes, no worries." And then they don't turn up for a penalty and they get disqualified, and they kind of look at you and go, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And because triathlon is, it's a new sport. You think about it, cricket's been around for 100 plus years and they're still writing new rules. Triathlon is been around for 30 or 40 years. So, in terms of that, we've only just got out of our nappies in terms of the actual sport. So, but talking about new officials, don't be afraid to make a mistake. We're all going to make them. God knows I've made some. I've made some doozies at some of the major events.
Yeah. And you've been supported through those mistakes as well. I think that's 100%. What's really key.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the key thing. You're going to make a mistake, but you're not going to be hung out to dry. People aren't going to go, he made that mistake. Let's, he can go and stand over there. You have a senior tech team, and you have your triathlon team who are going to be around you. And you go, okay, I made that mistake, but let's talk through it. What was the reason why you made it, and understand the process? Because I'll tell you what, you'll make it again.
Yeah.
Because triathlon is, as a technical official, it is such a very variable, high-paced sport with so many things going on and so many different rules. That's the other thing. I've been around for forever as a triathlete or as a technical official or as an event manager. I'm still confused with the rules. I actually have to look at the rules sometimes and go, hang about, what race am I at? Okay,
well, you've got, you're effectively looking at 3 sets of rules you're trying to keep your head around at times, and and it's a good point, because I know some new officials, especially that when they touch an ITU race early on, hang on, what's in the Triathlon Australia rules and what's in the ITU? It's like they get them meshed up.
Yeah, and you know what? And it makes no sense. And that's the other thing. It is confusing. And if we think it's confusing as a technical official, imagine how confusing it is for some of the athletes. Yeah. Because they might do a sprint race and then go, I'm going to do half Ironman or 70.3, and go, holy dooly, what how far do I have to be behind? How long am I in a penalty box for? So it's just, like I said, it's an evolving world, triathlon. It's like I said, we're still in the infancy, and people might say we've been around for 40 odd years, but we're still, or from my perspective, we're still learning the sport and how to make it a better and safer sport.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, obviously, we're at a time where things have closed down. I know certainly some of the events in Queensland had to sort of, not go ahead due to the coronavirus. Looking forward now, which we basically have to do, what are you looking forward to in the triathlon officiating world over the next sort of, 12 months, 2 years?
I'm a triathlon fan, so I'm actually really looking forward to the Olympic Games happening.
Yep.
That's what I want to see happen. Obviously the evolution of Super League and how that works. So I'm certainly excited about that, and knowing a lot of the stuff that's happening behind the scenes, and once we get back to the world that we used to live in, or a little bit more normality, that's going to be the exciting bit. But I guess it's certainly from my perspective, the exciting thing, certainly in Australia, is I think 2021 and some of the World Championships that are going to happen in Australia. And also maybe some of the ITU races that may or may not be coming to Australia next year or the year after. I think that's what I'm excited about. I think it's certainly as a new TO, that's the ultimate, and it certainly was the ultimate for me. I look back before even Super League existed. My TO goal was to get to an ITU Dexian race back in the day. And luckily for me, I actually did the last one in Sydney. That was at the Opera House. And I was on the back of a motorbike. I absolutely, actually, I'll take that back. I was in transition on Saturday for the ITU guys, and then for the final, the grand final, I was on the back of a motorbike. And riding across the Harbour Bridge when it was closed on the back of a motorbike with all the athletes was pretty cool. Let me tell you that.
It was, I was there. Pretty cool, that one.
Yeah, so that was the ultimate. Back then, that was my ultimate, was to get to that. That was the highest level. It was the ITU races, and it was the grand final, and it was in Sydney, and it was where the Olympics were. So everything kind of just rolled in. So once that was ticked off, it was like, you know what, this is awesome. I think I can do any particular event now. Let's just keep holding on. So so that's the ultimate. And certainly I think, as we grow in Australia and we get back to that, I think that should be certainly some of the aims for some of the new technical officials is, okay, I'm a level 1, and what do I need to do to get to level 2? And what do I need to do to get to level 3? What do I need to do then to be, in the ITU ranks, and how do I get on the field of play? And the ultimate, how do I get to Commonwealth Games, and then how do I get to the Olympics? That's the ultimate. Being a technical official selected for the Olympic Games is as good as being selected as an athlete, because there is only a couple of people from your country that would be selected for that. So that says that you have worked your way, put in the hard yards to get to the top of your game, and you've been recognised by the highest federation in the triathlon.
Yeah.
So I think that certainly is, that, like I said, from an athlete's point of view, that was certainly a goal for me, and it's no different. Certainly, I think for technical officials, that should be their goal as well.
Yeah. So and great advice to sort of take forward. And we're very lucky that we have got a couple of, with Lyndall and Frank obviously off to Tokyo in 2021, and all fingers crossed that they get that opportunity, because I'm sure
100%.
they'll
and you know what? And that's the other thing too. The triathlon program in Australia, we have a lot of experience. Like, we have some really experienced technical officials that have been around since the start of the program worldwide.
Yeah. So,
we're lucky in that sense. Like I said, I talked about Malta before. I went to Malta and I was the most experienced official there. It was new. They knew what a triathlon was. That was where they had 30 people turn up to a local park and they swam in the beach.
Yeah.
None of these ITU rules. Like, what do you mean that we have to have a mount and dismount line, and they have to have plastic boxes in transition? What are you talking about? We don't have fences around our transition. All these different things. So. So as I said, it's certainly, you get a lot out of being a technical official, and certainly from my perspective, you get to travel the world, and that certainly wouldn't have happened if I didn't pursue the course in New South Wales. I certainly wouldn't be sitting in the position I am now, and certainly wouldn't be the technical director for Super League, the game changer of the world, if I didn't, become a technical official. I might be a race director, but I'd have no idea about the technical side of it.
Yeah. No, certainly glad. And the experience you're sort of sharing with officials, I think, would be invaluable, certainly for those watching this. So, Tom, I really want to thank you for your time today. It's been great. We could obviously talk for ages, and I think we might come back and revisit a little bit more, certainly in the future there, and get you involved in some more calls. But, thanks for your time, and look forward to speaking again soon.
Absolutely, mate. Absolute pleasure. Thank you.